Hey, what's up everyone? MLT Magic Tricks here. So in this video, I'm going to be performing and then teaching you this very cool card trick that I definitely think you should learn how to do. But before we get into the performance, if you are new here to the channel, make sure you subscribe with those post notifications on for more card and magic trick performance and tutorial videos like this one. And also, I launched an online store that sells a variety of magic tricks and essential items for any magician. It is called Infinite Magic Tricks, and the link will be in the description to infiniteMagicTricks.com. So make sure you check that out if you are interested. And now let's get right into this performance. Okay, so I'm going to start off this trick by mixing up the cards, just giving the deck some cuts. I'll show you that all the cards in this deck are in fact different. Now at this point, I would tell my spectator to cut around a quarter of the cards from the deck and place them off to the side. So let's say they cut this small portion right here. Now I would tell them to cut this again, and we're just going to mark the cut. We will get to this pile of cards later in the trick, but for now we are going to be dealing with the rest of the deck. I would tell my spectator now to cut again a small portion of cards off to the side. Now I would instruct them to shuffle this portion of cards as much as they want to. Once they are done shuffling, I would have them take a look at the top card in this pack because it is going to be their selection. So I'm just going to be showing you the card and make sure you memorize it right there. Now we're going to go ahead and have my spectator cut half of the remaining cards here on top of their pile. So let's say they cut this amount of cards, place it on top, and then they can just go ahead and cut this pile even more to randomize the order. So once they are done cutting the cards, what we're going to do here is just go ahead and place the remaining cards here on top and go to the pile of cards that we have from the start of the trick. We are going to take a look at the cards that my spectator cut to. So in this case, we have the 10 of clubs and the 5 of spades. We are really only concerned with the values of these cards. So we have a 10 and a 5. Together, we are going to add them up. So we have 10 plus 5 is 15. Now, with the value of 15, we are going to see if that can help me find my spectator's card that they chose earlier in the trick. So we're going to count 15 cards from the top of the deck. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And the 15th card should be your selection right here, the 7 of hearts. So guys, that is the trick. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to learn how to perform it, make sure to stick around for the tutorial. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that performance. This is a really fun card trick to perform and fool people with. So let's get right into the tutorial. There is a small setup for this trick. It's really easy to make. And for the setup, the first thing you want to do is take out a card from the deck. I just chose the Joker. You are going to make this a crimped card. So there's going to be a little bend to this card. You guys can just, apply pressure here with your fingers and push outwards and then give the card a little bend. I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit for the tutorial so we can easily see it later in the, tutorial as we go. So just make your crimped card, bend it a little bit. Once you do that, you are going to now continue with the setup. So what you're going to do here is take out a couple of number cards from the deck. I just chose a 10 and a 5. Together that makes 15. I recommend the sum of these two cards to be between 15 and 20. I will explain why later in the tutorial, but just take out two number cards that create one number, so 10 and 5, that makes 15. And here's what you need to do. So the sum of the values of these two cards is going to correspond to the position of the crimped card on the bottom of the deck. Here's what I mean by that. It's really easy. So I have 15. That means I'm going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 cards. And then the crimped card is going to be the 15th card from the bottom of the deck. Once you do that, you're good to go. Then you're going to place your two setup cards right on top. And that's all you need to do for the setup. It's quite easy to make, and you're ready to start the trick. So you can go up to your spectator, give the deck some cuts, make sure they are false cuts because you do need to keep this order with your crimped card there on the bottom and then your two setup cards on top. I'll leave a link on the screen right now to me teaching you guys some false cuts if you don't know how to do any. It's obviously not mandatory for this trick, but I just like to do it because it makes it seem like you're mixing up the deck to your spectator, and in reality you're keeping it set up. You can just spread out these cards because they do seem completely random. Once you do this, you're going to ask your spectator to cut around a quarter of the cards, so just a small portion from the deck. They are going to cut a small portion here off to the side. Now you're going to tell them to cut this pile again, and you're basically doing the cross-cut force here. So wherever your spectator cuts, you're going to say, okay, we're going to mark the cut. And as you do this, you're going to turn this other pile horizontally, place it on top of this pack. But in reality, you are just placing this on top of the deck that has our 2 setup cards. Now, once you do this, you're going to bring your spectators' attention away from this portion of cards, and we're going to go back to it at the end of the trick. They are not going to remember. They are just going to think this is a random spot, so don't worry about that. This is a really easy force. You have done the crosscut force at this point. Once you do that, you're going to go back to the rest of the deck, have your spectator cut another small portion of cards. Now, this is pretty important here because you can see our crimp on the bottom of the deck. Your spectator cannot cut past the crimp when they cut this first portion of cards from the deck here, so make sure they cut a small portion. Just tell them to cut, like 10 or so cards, 10 to 15. Once they do that, they're going to place that off to the side. You can still, double check that your crimp is still in the remaining cards here and the rest of the deck. We're going to tell your spectator to take the portion of cards that they just cut and shuffle it up. They can shuffle these cards as much as they want to. Once they're done shuffling, tell them to take a look at the top card because that is going to be their selection, or you can just have them choose a card, but you do want to get that card back on top. So to make it easiest, just have them turn over the top card to themselves. They're only going to look at it for the trick, but for the tutorial, we'll both take a look at it here together. So we have the King of Clubs as my spectator selection. Make sure you tell them to place it back on top of this portion. Now from here, once they have memorized their card, you have the remaining cards here with the crimp in this pack of cards. You're going to tell them to cut about half of these cards, and when they cut these cards, they need to cut past the crimp. So that is important. So make sure they cut half these cards, and if they do that, they will cut past the crimp. And that is why you want to start with the number 15, or have a number between 15 and 20, because if you have a small number, your crimp will be really near the bottom of the deck, and they may not cut the crimp card in this portion. So that is why you want to have your setup number be between 15 and 20 or so. So once they cut, they're going to place these cards on top. You now have the crimp card in this pack of cards that has their selection. You can tell them to cut this pack in half as much as they want to randomize the order, but in reality, they're just not changing the specific order of cards, but rather the position. So make sure they're just cutting the cards in half, not doing like 2 to 3 cuts or anything. That will mess it up, but just have them cut it a couple times in half. Now you're going to grab these cards, and here's what you need to do. After your spectator's done cutting, it's really important. You need to grab the cards, locate the crimp. You're going to be able to see it here when you kind of release pressure from the deck. You're going to see the crimp, and all you need to do, guys, is cut the crimp to the bottom of this pack. So you're going to kind of open up the cards like this. If you're comfortable with doing a one-handed Charlie 8 cut, you're going to cut that right there to the bottom. Once you do that, you're basically ready to continue with the trick. If you're not comfortable with doing the one-handed Charlie 8 cut, what you can do is just, kind of lift up the cards and then bring it to the bottom like that. So either way, get the crimp card to the bottom. From here, you're going to take the remaining cards. You can just shuffle them up a little bit. Doesn't matter. Place them on top. And at this point, you're ready to basically do the reveal for the trick. So once you have cut that crimp card to the bottom, you have placed 14 cards on top of your spectator selection. So now their card is in the 15th position. So you're going to now go to these cards, take a look at the cards that your spectator cut to at the start, but in reality, you force these cards. They are not going to know that. Turn them over. We have a 10 and a 5. And explain to your spectator that the values are only important for this trick. So you're going to add up the 2 values of these cards. 5 plus 10 is 15. And then you're going to now deal 15 cards from the top of the deck here. So you just count off the cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then the 15th card will be their selection. They will be completely blown away. This trick has a very powerful effect because you did not see the card that they chose at the start, and they will be completely confused that the card that was in the 15th position was their selection. So that is the trick. I hope this one made sense. Just make sure you get comfortable with the crimped card because that is the key to this card trick. So that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in my next video. Peace out.